Welcome to the girls. As you can see today, I am joined by a little extra special guest today. This is my daughter-in-law, Lori Lasant, and Janina's bugging out on us today. She took an early leave.
She did. She's starting her vacation early, I guess.
Yeah, vacation. She needs always on vacation. I don't know. This kid, she works hard, but she plays hard too, which I guess is a good thing.
Yes, it is.
If you could get away. You have a nice trip planned coming up soon too, but you have a pretty big, unusual family that you're going to be taking with you.
Yes, this is the first year in a long time that we're taking a summer vacation, and we're going to be driving to Florida. And I always say I have more than one child. We have one actual human child, and we have two little four-legged dogs who are joining us on our trip this year.
Now, these two little dogs are amazing because Crosby's the baby.
He is, yes.
But he's 5?
He's 4.
4 years old. Okay, I'm sorry, Cros, I'm making you older. And then Spaghetti is the amazing super dog because Spaghetti is how old?
17. He just turned 17.
17 years old, a little Yorkie.
He is. He's a Yorkie. He's blind, he's deaf, but he does very well. He keeps up with Crosby fairly well. So, yeah, we're excited to bring them on a road trip. They love to be in the car, so it should be smooth sailing on the trip.
And you're planning, I guess, on going to the happiest place in the world because
Absolutely.
You are Disney. You love Minnie and Mickey and
yes.
all the characters.
Wouldn't be a trip to Florida without a trip to Disney.
So now, did you find a place where they have the dogs stay, or do you have somewhere there that you?
We do. We actually have a friend who has a place who we are going to be staying there. He's kind enough to rent us his area, or his little resort area that he has there. So we'll be staying there. So I'm excited because at least it's a place where I know they'll be safe, because that was always a reservation for us of, yes, you can find dog-friendly places, but will they be safe if you leave them for a little while and go out?
Right. You know, I always thought that with us having Gucci, people say, well, stay in a hotel where they accept dogs. But if I'm going to be out and about and doing my thing and leaving my dog in the hotel, what if a maid or someone comes along and opens the door to clean my room and the dog gets out? Or, you know, if the dog gets scared, I think it's much easier to either leave them home or take them to a home setting like you're going to do.
Right, absolutely. That's always been our worry too. So this will be nice because we will be the only ones there. There won't be anyone, no housekeeping will be coming in. It'll just be us. So, and having especially Spaghetti not used to a location.
Yeah, blind.
He knows our house, so it'll take a little bit of trial and error for us.
Well, Crosby's like the seeing eye dog for him, though, isn't he?
He is, yes.
They take care of each other.
They do.
And if you're not familiar with it, Lori is the CEO and director of the Community Services for Sight here in the Hazleton area. And it was formerly the Hazleton Blind Association, and you've merged now with having all the different things that you do with the children's camp and everything. It's now Community Services for Sight. You have a lot of great upcoming events too that we have a lot of fun time with. Why don't you tell us about some of those?
Sure. So we're really excited to be partnering with Beamboat Bakeries this year. We're going to be having a golf tournament in July. So we're very excited about that opportunity because, of course, as a nonprofit, we need to raise money, and it gets harder and harder to look for donations and come up with unique ways. So this is a great way for us to raise some money and build awareness and a great new partnership. Oh,
that's good. With all these fundraisers, they always have a lot of fun at the fundraisers, but in the same token, if anyone out there is considering making a bequeathment, maybe if you have some money that you'd like to put to good use, either while you're alive, or if you could also put it in your will. And it would be very much appreciated because you do buy a lot of equipment, you provide a lot of services.
Yes, we absolutely do. And bequests have been a wonderful thing for our organization. Actually, without them, sometimes you wonder if the doors will stay open. So some people think of us, and we really appreciate that because it changes lives.
All right, well, stay with us because we have two very special guests on our show today. We're speaking about making bequeathments and putting in your will. We have some people here that will help you with planning your funeral if you would like ahead of time, and people who are here that can advise you, the experts. We have Brian Harman and his assistant Sara DeAngelis. So stay right with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to The Girls. We're here today with Brian Harman and Sara DeAngelis from Harman Funeral Home and Crematory. We're going to be talking about advanced planning and planning for the future. So, Brian, I have a question for you. When we're thinking about a funeral, you know, it's kind of hard to think about that while we're alive and healthy. Why is it so important for us to plan that ahead of time for our loved ones?
There's a couple reasons why it's important. Number one, it allows you to make some decisions for yourself and make known your wishes so that your family knows what those wishes are ahead of time. Number two, there can be a financial benefit to doing so. Number one, because some costs can be guaranteed throughout the time that that prearrangement is in effect. And also the funds that are placed in a prearrangement can be protected from assessment by a nursing facility for Medicaid benefits.
Also, in other words, if you have a parent, let's say, who has property, and now they're going to be placed into maybe a assisted living facility, if they sell their home and now they have all these assets, you want to try and protect those from the taxes,
right.
Maybe, and put them places, or even while you yourself are having, in other words, I and my husband could probably take some money and prearrange a funeral, and that would be protected from taxes?
Correct, and not from taxes, but from what's called Medicaid spend down.
Oh, okay.
When someone has assets and needs to go into a nursing home, if they don't have long-term care insurance or something like that, they need to use their own personal funds to pay for that care up until a point where they might meet Medicaid eligibility. Any money that's prepaid for a funeral service that's placed into an account can be protected from that spend down. So it can be there. Your family knows that those funds are going to be there at the time that they need them, as opposed to having to use that money to pay for the care in a nursing facility.
And you said something so important about that the price of what your arrangements are is then frozen. And so with the way the prices of the funerals have changed, you've been in the business for 25 years, you're sixth generation.
That's
but
correct.
You've been doing this yourself for 25 years. So how have you seen the industry and the business itself of funerals change?
Well, it's inflation is no different than any other consumer good that we deal with in America. The price of bread and milk has gone up over 25 years. The price of funerals has gone up over 25 years. But by placing those funds in an advanced plan arrangement, most of those prices become guaranteed through the funeral home. Not all of the prices, because there's some things that are associated with a funeral that we don't have any control over. Things such as the cost of death certificates or cemetery fees, things of that sort. But
which just had a huge raise, the death certificates.
Correct. Death certificates in August of 2018 went from $6 per certified copy to $20 per certified copy. But anything that the funeral home has control over, the plans that we use, there's a guarantee feature in there that allows the funds that you've placed in there to create interest to offset the inflation that those prices go up over time.
So Brian, if I wanted to come in and I would make that appointment with your facility to come in and start planning my arrangements, what information do I need to bring along for you to help me with that?
So there's 5 basic steps to pre-arranging or pre-planning a funeral for someone. The first step is the gathering of information, and that's the biographical and statistical information that the funeral home needs at the time of someone's death to complete all the paperwork. So that's things like names, date and place of birth, parents' names, what kind of work someone did, the things that go on documents that we complete for families. The second step is to talk about what does someone want as far as a service. Are they going to be buried? Are they going to be cremated? Is there going to be a church service? Is there going to be a cemetery involved? The third step is to pick out the types of things that are necessary to accomplish that type of service. So when someone's buried, you can plan on needing to pick out a casket and a vault. When someone's cremated, it's going to be an urn. There will be things like stationary items such as register books and prayer cards and things of that sort, flowers, those types of things. The next step is to kind of figure out what does all this cost, and the final step is to discuss whether someone wants to pre-fund that or not. By pre-funding, we mean establishing some type of pre-planning agreement. Some people choose to do that. Some people already have insurance in place that they're going to use as the funding vehicle. So just because you kind of start the process doesn't mean you have to go through all the steps. Some people like to give us information and stop there. Some people want to make sure everything is done all the way down to the final amount of money being prepaid to take care of everything.
Okay, so if someone had that insurance policy and they said, well, I'd like to plan it all, but I'm not prepared to financially pay for it now, would you need that information, or would you just wait for the time to come and the family to come in?
That's a comfort level that the individual is with. They don't have to do anything with that insurance policy, but again, we talked about needing to go into a nursing facility. Should that become a situation, then there are ways to protect that insurance policy so that it doesn't get eaten up by the nursing home.
That's interesting to know. There's so many different ways that the elderly need to be protected. Sara, you're a little bit newer to this industry.
Yes,
First of all, what attracted you to want to become a mortician?
I've always wanted to help people and serve my community in any way that I can, and I was always interested in the science aspect.
The science aspect of it all.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you're registered for about 4 years now?
I have graduated from Mortuary College for 4 years, and I've been licensed as a funeral director for about 3.
What does it take to go to school? Like, how many years must you study for that?
In Pennsylvania, you need a 2-year associate degree. I got mine in applied science, and then I went to Mortuary College at Northampton Community College for a 1-year accelerated program. And then one must have a 1-year internship served under a licensed funeral director, and Brian was mine.
So are you serving your internship right now?
I've finished.
So you're finished there, so you're an associate at the Harman Funeral Parlor and
Yes, ma'am.
Crematorium. I've been noticing myself with so many of the funerals that I've gone to that they have changed so much over the years with, they used to have 2-day viewings. Now there's maybe viewing before Mass. I'm seeing where they're allowing the funeral to actually take place in the church. So what do you see as the newest trend? Do you see more cremations, or do you see the full funeral?
Definitely more cremations. Our cremation rate is about 60%,
Really?
but we see that across America these days. The cremation rate is steadily rising.
Right. What do you think that's due to, Brian?
There's a couple reasons. Cost is definitely one factor into it. When you compare like services, cremation tends to be a little bit less expensive, primarily because the cemetery costs are less expensive for a cremation than they are for a traditional burial. But I believe one of the biggest driving factors of it is that our families are spread out more than they have ever been in the past. When I started this and the generation before me, people were born, grew up, lived and died all in the same town, and their kids did the same thing. And now families are much more spread out. A person that has lived here their whole life, their children may live in 3 different states. And it is much easier for people to be cremated, schedule a service when it is convenient for the entire family to get back here, than it is for everybody have to come from 3 states away by 3 days from now. So I believe that's the biggest driving factor of it.
Okay, well, I'm going to interrupt you right there. We're going to go out to a quick commercial break. Thank you to our sponsors. Stay right there, because when we come back, we're going to have more important information for you from Harman Funeral Home and Crematorium.
Welcome back to The Girls. We're here with Sara DeAngelis and Brian Harman from Harman's Funeral Home and Crematory. Brian, you stand out from a lot of the other funeral homes in our area because you are the only one that is also a crematory. So what makes that so different than just a regular funeral home where if somebody says, I would like my loved one to be cremated, but they don't offer that?
We were the first funeral home in the area to establish our own on-site crematory, and we're still one of the few that has that same service. The reason that we did that is we felt it was very important for our families to be able to look them in the eye and say that we had control of their loved one from the beginning until the end. And before we had our own on-site crematory, and the way that most of the other funeral homes in the area do that, they need to use a subcontractor for that part of it. And we weren't able to look at our families and say that we had control of that from start to finish. At our firm, a licensed funeral director, myself, Sara, or my brother, handles every aspect of it, including the cremation. In the state of Pennsylvania, crematories aren't regulated that require a funeral director to do that. But at our firm, that's the way we handle things.
So you are giving that family, really from start to finish, that absolute respect that you want for your loved one.
Exactly. When I sit across the desk from someone and say that I'm going to take care of your mother or your wife or your husband or your daughter from the beginning to the end, I can say that with a clear conscience, because I know that I've done that.
Well, we've talked a lot about pre-planning a funeral, but of course there are times, most times, when people will call you and say, my mother just passed, a relative, whatever. And so what is the first thing, Sara, that you have to address with these people? There's so many emotions. And at that time, the person's just like, they don't know what to do. So how do you start them off with that?
I first collect some biographical information about their loved one, just that allows me to know where they are, so that either myself or Brian or Jason will take them into our care.
They take the deceased.
Yes, and it's very important to us that we do that in a timely manner. We want to be with our families as soon as we possibly can. So I gather some information, and then I let them know, because it's one of us who comes to the house or comes to the nursing home or the facility, and then we'll let them know all the things to expect during the planning process, which is really similar to the same process for pre-planning. Collecting biographical and statistical information, talking about exactly what type of services you'd like to have, and how much does all this cost.
And I noticed that a lot of people not only get an urn, but they have choices of other ways to preserve their loved ones. So what other kind of containers or things do you offer?
We have all kinds of things, including lockets or jewelry that would hold some of someone's ashes. We also have jewelry where we take a thumbprint or a fingerprint and they don't hold any ashes, but it's something to remember your loved one. And there's also smaller urns that can be used in conjunction with a larger urn in order to maybe have some at home with you or stay with you.
Sara, what if someone comes in and says, my mother's favorite place was Walt Disney World. I want to scatter her ashes there. How do you direct someone? Because that's something that they really want to do, but I'm sure there must be regulations and laws against doing certain things like that.
The law states, it's very vague, but it pretty much says that you must have the permission of the property owner in order to spread your ashes anywhere. So I would not suggest Disney World unless you can get permission.
I just bring that up because I've actually heard of people doing that, and I know it causes a little bit of a problem for the location sometimes based on where the location is. So that's why I bring that up, because you often hear people saying, well, when I pass, I want to be scattered wherever it is. So
we try to advise folks that sometimes scattering sounds very romantic or altruistic or it's something that you want to do, but you need to be really certain that the place that you do that at is going to stay that kind of place in perpetuity. People talk about, we're going to go to the place out by the river and scatter mom's ashes. But you got to be careful that the place out by the river doesn't become a parking lot at some point in the future. So we don't advise folks not to do it, but we want them to be sure, because you only get one opportunity to do that.
And as far as the finishing of the funeral, the actual burial, if a person does not have a burial plot, do you have access to those? Do you have recommendations? How do you help them find their resting place?
We can offer recommendations. It depends on again, their religious preference. Some of the cemeteries in our area are church-specific. Some are non-denominational. A lot of times, people are looking for someplace close to where they live. If you happen to be a veteran, the Veterans Administration provides some really good options. The unfortunate part is they're not very close to us. The closest one is at Fort Indiantown Gap in Annville. But as a veteran, you're entitled to a free grave, a free vault, a free burial service, and a free military service.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm sure a lot of people watching out there didn't know a lot of this, and you probably have a lot more questions. So where could they reach you, Brian, if someone would like to call, make an appointment, maybe to make a pre-arrangement?
We have 2 locations, one in Drums and one in Rock Glen. They can reach us at 570-788-0977 or via our website at harmanfuneral.com.
Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today and enlightening us a little bit on some of the subjects that people don't really like to talk about, but we're all going to need it someday. So I hope everyone out there had some of their questions answered, and if not, you can get in touch with them, and we'll see you next time on The Girls.